Those of you that have subscribed to my channel or have just been watching my videos will know that I do sporadic videos at best, and they seem to swap between the shorts, semi-shorts and long form videos. Could be about various topics. Very rarely are they on a theme. The simple fact is, I work 2 jobs. One's a local taxi driver, the other is an Amazon van driver. Neither of those jobs allow me a great deal of time to settle down and do research, let alone have the time to draft the essays for those videos and then do the editing for them. So it's a bit hit and miss, if I'm honest. However, this is why I'm doing the short form stuff. Someone once commented on one of the short videos saying that I seem to be doing a lot of response videos, the Reels runs, on the Austin community. No, the atheist community of Austin. Yeah. And they recommended that I call in to actually have a debate with them. Now, there's actually a couple of very decent reasons why I don't do that. First of all, as I said, it's the time. I don't always have the time to do them. The short form videos are a lot easier to do, much easier to respond to, and much easier to put out, to get the message out. However, whilst I do agree that calling in would be ideal so I can talk to them back and forth and actually get productive dialogue going, hopefully, it's nowhere near as easy as people actually think. Because the thing about those podcasts, those call-ins, they're at set times, and I can't guarantee I'll be able to call in on those times. And I hate making plans only to turn them off at the last moment. I hate it. I prefer making plans in the future and sticking to them, if at all possible. I know modern life doesn't always work that way, and in fact this week itself has been proof of that, as I had Amazon turn me down twice for work, or rather I offered them work and they were like, okay, we'll put you on the reserve list. And the reserve list is never a good one to be on because they just don't let you know anything at all. It goes similar to traffic here because it's just, it gets snarled up easily. You have no idea what's going on. So, second reason is more down to how I've seen the Atheist Society of Austin, the Atheist Community of Austin, sorry, run their podcast. It seems to be rather confrontational. Or at the very least, it's questionable. I'm not questioning their intellectual integrity, no. But you can't guarantee anything is going to go in any direction that seems sensible. I've seen them basically question a person's whole debating style because, well, he just asked a question, which is perfectly reasonable in debating circles because it's establishing that they know they don't know everything. They're checking to make sure that their interpretation is the same as yours. Sort of checking to see that they had the right idea before they plough on. Because if they got it completely back to front, then obviously it's not going to be a good statement to follow through on, let alone start bringing the argument from. If you know full well it's not going to be strong, you don't follow through. And yet they were questioning if he'd even debated before, which I think was a bit manipulative. So making him think, oh, should I be doing this? Yes, he should. He was doing very well. I'll get to that one, as I know it's in my Reels runs. Now I know that review stuff is sort of the lowest form of YouTube content, but in this case it's a lot easier and a lot quicker to do the review, give it a once over. I can do about a dozen of them at a time and then just pace them out over the week. So then I've got more time to find more and do them, put up a backlog, and now I've got the time to do my research onto other videos, do the editing on that, and so forth. So as I'm working with the systems I've got, as many of you may have noticed that with the older videos, the sound is questionable because my new laptop just doesn't have a decent sound system. It doesn't have a decent microphone, and it glitches out quite a lot, which is really annoying. I tried using it with my Bluetooth earpiece as a microphone, but Bluetooth being what it is, it's still not working. So I think it's more down to the software I'm using. I tried using a camera as well, another camera, but for some reason that didn't want to upload onto my laptop, so I'm having to do it via my phone, which takes a long time, takes a lot of time editing, takes a lot of time uploading and so forth. So all of that eats into time. So why do I do it if it takes that much effort? Well, I see so many misconceptions about God, so many misunderstandings on both sides, not just on the atheist side, but also the theist. Things that could be looked at in a different way, that will give you a far greater understanding and a far greater appreciation of God. If I can find people that also have that viewpoint, I will share it. If I can point out what people say is wrong, I will. Unfortunately, comments tend to be either forgotten, long-winded, or quite often just shouted down by others. So you could say the second reason why I don't call into the atheist community of Austin and debate them there is because it's not really my style. I'm not confrontational. You could say I'm more defensive. As someone once said, wisdom is knowing what he knows and what he doesn't know, and relying on the wisdom of others. You could say wisdom is being humble, which is something I don't think that the Austin community of the atheist community of Austin, getting really confused by that, is saying. They tend to step up and say, oh, no, this is something else. And even recently I saw a video that will be covering on the Reels runs, where they acknowledged comments saying that they took something out of context, saying that they were cherry picking, and you know what they did? They deliberately chose the more devastating ones that didn't really support anything. It just showed how bad they are looking to make it. When if you look not only at the context before what the Midianites are doing, but also what that actually means in terms of the history. Because the Midianites, they worshipped, I don't remember what the name of that god was, but he was a contemporary of Molech, one of the pagan gods of Mesopotamia. And whilst any decent Christian, in my opinion, should be open to all faiths, it depends on what those faiths ask of you. In our case, it's self-sacrifice, it's serving, it's showing people God's love through our actions, through our daily lives. Molech and the other gods of Mesopotamia, their worship was through orgies and child sacrifice. That is terrible. That truly is terrible. And whilst, yes, putting people to the sword may look absolutely terrible, if you bear in mind that if they don't, you end up putting having a religion accepted that is killing babies, that is spreading sexually transmitted diseases like wildfire. All horrendous things that can cause all manner of harm. This, quite frankly, is ridiculous. That people are saying, oh, they shouldn't be doing that, they shouldn't be putting people to the sword. You might say that until someone else tries coming along to take your daughter unwillingly to be their wife, or just their sex partner, or take your baby to kill and burn for their god. You wouldn't be saying, ooh, go ahead, I accept that. You would be killing them. Heaven's sake, most of those people in Austin, they got guns. Someone comes to their door, they wouldn't be saying, oh yes, we'll allow that. No, you would shoot them in the face. So, be honest with yourselves. Would you allow such a vile religion to survive, let alone try and convert people that you know? Would you let your friends be turned to that vile religion? No, you wouldn't. It may seem like intolerance, but tolerance itself does cause a paradox eventually. As for the virgins, completely destroying a race, a culture, is certainly genocidal. But also, it does put a dent in the population as a whole. So what do? Some of the virgins get married off to people in the tribe who will ensure that bloodlines continue, that people will remember this day, remember why it's done. As for some of them going to the priesthood, people have been doing that for centuries. That's the nunneries, the convents. the sisterhoods. That is basically teaching them that they need to look for gods that don't demand that you, in a group, have to be raped by people. Some of them might even be damaged, traumatized by seeing their friends tied up and raped. Some of them may be horrified at the sight of babies being burned. That's the thing to remember. The priesthood is not just a means of serving God. Sometimes it can be a form of therapy. I've heard of some people joining monastic orders to be a form of therapy, to get away from the horrors of the world. Whilst yes, we do have other forms of therapy, like, well, therapists, we have family, we have communities that will support you. Back then, having people serve some way to be involved helps them. Sometimes the best way someone can find help is by helping others. So, why do I go ahead and try to correct them on this? Because someone has to. Because they are forming opinions that essentially turn them against another part of the human race. Regardless of how we feel towards them, regardless of how we think they'll be treated at the end of the days. Trying to protect them from, or at least guide them from those negatively formed ideas. It's more to ensure that they don't trigger hatred of people. Am I trying to convert them to Christianity? No. Why? Because, well, these people in Austin, Texas, they're based in the Bible Belt. Anyone that knows the stereotypical Bible Belt people know they are heavily fundamentalist, heavily anti-LGBTQ, and essentially follow older, more hate-filled versions of the gospel. My partner, she she lived in Texas for a while, and when she mentioned she was Christian from a very faithful line, that made me think, oh dear, fundamentalist. But she's got a very open mind. So, why am I trying to correct them on things? Well, just because they got turned away by their churches. Just because they were rejected by communities that should be more welcoming to people, by the dictator Christ himself. They, unfortunately, have formed negative opinions. And whilst many of them have studied things that do guide them through different areas. For example, one of them's I think it's an evolutionary biologist, one's a doctor, one's a therapist, and so forth. They're still going by questionable ideas based on Christianity, based on their own experience, which unfortunately they themselves say is not applicable in scientific discussion. It's not conducive to evidence, at least. So I could end up going to a rant about this, saying that they can and probably should listen to their own arguments and realise how some of them are hypocritical, but that'll be cropping up in other videos anyway, so we'll move on from that and simply say this. Sometimes if you've had a negative experience, your opinion on that thing can be stuck. I was bullied mercilessly throughout secondary school, and that caused me to have a deep mistrust of teenagers or people with shaved heads, spiked hair, or patterns shaved into their hair. Unfortunately, experiences afterwards haven't changed my opinion much, but I'm trying to keep an open mind. Hopefully, I'll be able to post this video at some point alongside my usual shorts. I'm hoping to do more series with the weapons, more things on the warrior stuff. So, even if you're not into the long form stuff and like the short stuff, please consider looking at the long stuff. Some of these are better off as a podcast, so you can listen to them whilst driving and stuff like that. I'll try to crop down the spaces so you're not listening to a lot of silence or rushing wind or all that sort of rubbish. But I hope you enjoy the content, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, as it helps to keep the algorithm going. Like the videos if you do, and if you want to start discussions, please do. The comments are always open. I leave them open for that purpose. Is there anything you want me to talk about in these videos, by all means mention it. I'll see what I can do. And I'd like to do a Q&A at some point, so if you have any questions, by all means put them down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do when I get time. But until then, stay safe everyone, and God be with you.